Welcome back to the Third Wheel Podcast. I'm Caleb,
I'm Matthew.
the very difficult co-host that we have today. Just kidding. All right, Matt. Thanks for hopping on today. Shaps is out for a couple of weeks due to work stuff, work schedules. You know, nothing going on behind the scenes. We're not fighting or anything. You know, it's all good stuff. You didn't beat him up last time he was here.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So we're all good. All right. Anyway, today we're also going to talk about horror stuff, and I'm excited to do so. Do you even like horror? That's my question for you.
I do. I love it.
What's your favorite?
One thing that I truly hate about people that do watch horror is that they spend the majority of the movie with their blankets up to here, so just in case something happens, they don't see it. Me, I'm like, I'll get back in my seat, I'm not comfortable. So I get to at least experience it, but I don't like it when people spend the majority of the movie not looking at the screen and then they completely miss it. And I was like, oh, dude, that was so good.
I actually go like this, that way if something happens, it's like through my, so yeah.
I think that just defeats the purpose of getting to experience a movie, But, to each their own. I just personally don't like it. I'd be like, oh, dude, if you had just seen that, that would have been great. And then if you rewind it, then, it just takes away that factor.
Yeah. Well, I still see it. It's just I feel safer like this. I feel like it won't get me if I put up my hand like this. It won't. It can't reach through my fingers.
Kind of like you wear the blankets as long as your feet are covered.
Yeah, exactly.
The ghost can't get to you.
If you sleep with your teddy bear, you're safe. You got something protecting you. It's I don't know.
Have you ever seen The Grudge? The blanket does not work. So why would your hand?
I actually haven't seen The Grudge. Did you watch that?
I actually watched it recently, mainly because I wanted to catch up on iconic horror movies that I just haven't seen. I know my sister and my wife, they wanted to watch The Human Centipede. Never in my life had I ever had the urge to watch that movie. And I watched, just parts of it, the parts that everyone wants to watch, those parts.
Everyone? Sorry.
Well, essentially, nobody's watching that movie for its plot. And oddly enough, it does have a decent plot, you know what I mean? But everyone's there to see The Human Centipede. You know what I mean? So whenever they're on
plot?
It does.
I mean, I watched the plot, but when he actually started doing the work, I was like, I'm gonna pass on this. So I didn't finish it. I watched it for the plot, and I found none.
I
don't know.
Essentially, it's like Frankenstein's monster. Doctor's very proud of his experiment, and we're seeing that unfold on the screen of how he's laid this out, and you got these 3 very, very unfortunate victims besides the guy at the front.
I see the comparison. I see the comparison you're trying to make, but I would argue Frankenstein has a lot of death. But I'm basing it off the book, where the doctor has all this backstory going on to why he built it, and then it escaping and trying to.
To be fair, it's nothing like Frankenstein, but I'm talking about the meat and potatoes.
I
of it.
know. Like I said, I get what you're trying to compare it to.
Who wants to,
and he's happy with it.
Do unethical work, and
a lot of scientists' work wasn't appreciated in their time, and I would argue this movie's still, nah.
I had no interest in watching this movie, and after watching it, I can comfortably say I had no interest in watching that.
I was right the first time.
Yeah, I was right. And then they were like, "All right, now we got to watch the second one." I'd be like, "No, I'll pass."
Well, when you bring up Grudge, it reminds me of when we'd be at Blockbuster, and I saw the DVD cover of The Grudge, and it's
that alone terrified me.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to watch it.
It's just the eyeball with the hair in front, and they advertised it as it's better than The Ring. That was on the box. More scary than The Ring. Or no, sorry.
I never watched The Ring either, and I guess that's another one that I need to, watch.
There's The Ring,
seen The Exorcist, The Ring. I know there's sequels to The Grudge, but I don't think after watching The Grudge, I don't think I'm interested in continuing the storyline.
Yeah.
What's some big ones?
The Ring though is I think it's Japanese. The original one is called Ringu. You should give it. You might want to watch that one instead, because The Ring is just the American version. Let's see. Classics you haven't seen. Shoot, my mind just went blank. Shaps just saw The Thing for the first time last time we did an episode.
Love The Thing. That's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite horror movie. If you could call it horror, I'm not sure. It's more
American
thriller.
American Werewolf in London.
Mm-mm.
That's a good
No.
movie. Yeah, you need to watch that.
I was never big into werewolves, so
Dude, they're so underrated. Nobody wants to do a werewolf movie except for finally we got the Wolfman coming out in January.
yeah, I did see that, or I saw the trailer for it, but
January is starting to make a comeback because January's used to be where our studios would just dump their movies that they knew weren't going to be good or were going to flop. But Blumhouse has started releasing their good movies in January to kind of
to counteract that.
And I imagine it's not to it's probably not to counteract it, but I think it's because it's the cheapest slot to put your movie in right after Christmas is prime time.
Yeah.
Halloween pretty much prime time. Thanksgiving somewhere in the middle, right? So January is probably the cheap. Like we could probably put our film in there, our short film. Oh yeah, and that's been released by the way. So thanks guys for all the subs off of it and all the views and all the likes and comments. You're nice. I expected a lot of Freddy looks like crap, but no, I'm getting a lot of Freddy was the best part. Freddy was the greatest part of that. I'm like, thank you.
I did like the dream sequence essentially. Where you switch to needles on your hand, so
Yeah,
I did appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, that was all.
Prime
That was all my wife. She
Yeah.
did all the editing on that, and the first effect she used, I was like, I don't like it, and then I gave her what I was thinking, and then she switched it to make it look good. So, we can talk about that later. We can talk about some production, but anyway, if we have time next episode, I want to talk about the Thing remake that's coming out, the game. So they're remaking the game. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's coming out like
Does
sometime.
it look even half decent?
That's the thing. Yeah, it does. But so have all the remakes that have disappointed. So we'll see. That's what I want to talk about next episode. But okay, American Werewolf in London. Do you like vampires?
This kind of goes along with the Van Helsing trio. You got Frankenstein,
Okay,
your
hold on a
vampires, and your werewolves. I think they're the least interesting of the iconic horror
Vampires?
villains.
Worse than werewolves.
My sister and I, we debate about this a lot.
That's surprising.
Like, if I had to choose between being a vampire and a werewolf, I would choose being a werewolf.
Oh, I would too.
I think it's cooler.
But she wants to be a vampire.
She wants to be a
Okay.
vampire.
Well, she's already pale. She never leaves the room.
Yeah.
She only leaves at night. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it fits with
Yeah.
her character.
She
but
may as well sleep in a
yeah.
coffin, hanging upside down.
Yeah.
Well,
I just think,
oh, good.
I'd get so tired. I'd get so bored. I'm immortal, though I don't have the heart to actually, stab myself in the chest, or even if if vampires were real, I don't even know if there would be a way to kill me. Maybe besides stepping in the sun.
Yeah.
But I would have to have the heart to do that.
Unless
But
you're a Twilight
besides
vampire.
that, you would be completely immortal, tired of life. You know what I mean?
You don't
I
think?
think after the first 3,000 years, you'd be like, you know what? There's truly nothing to live for now.
Yeah.
I've been alive for too long.
I would think after 3,000 years, technology and people in society changed enough to where you can be like, okay, that was cool. You know what I mean? Think of it like Skyrim, where you travel to different parts of the realm to get a different experience every time. I don't know. Wouldn't you feel like 1,000 years in Japan would be different from your 1,000 years in China to your 1,000 years in Sweden? And you got all these different
That's
houses.
assuming that I would want to spend 1,000 years in any country. You know what I mean? You would get tired with life, I feel like.
Maybe.
As a werewolf, you would get all these significant powers. They wouldn't always be bogging you down. You still got a whole month to enjoy yourself being a human, and then once a month you get to go crazy, and
Yeah.
you still die like a normal human being at the end of the day.
I mean, I see what you mean, but a lot of the times you can't control yourself while you're in werewolf form.
That's not my fault.
It's like you said, you go crazy, and I get that, but like an American Werewolf in London, for instance, he wakes up every time in a zoo cage, with the other wolves, and he's like, ugh, how did I get here? And nobody noticed. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But you probably wake up at some point in a military base, and you'd be like, oh, God, another rough night,
I think you could say the same thing about a vampire, Granted, like if they do catch you, you're going to be their little toy for, eternity, go through a million different administrations that want to do separate different tests on you.
Please kill me. I don't want to do this anymore. I hate this. But yeah, I don't know. I could go either way. I didn't like vampires until relatively recently, and nothing really like did it. But anyway, that Wolfman movie coming out next year looks pretty good. Did you see the trailer for it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did.
Same guy that did Invisible Man, I guess, which I haven't seen.
I do love that movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen that actually. I need to watch that.
The original Invisible Man or the one that came out
Blumhouse.
recently? Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was really good.
Did you watch the original?
No, I haven't. That's
Okay.
another original that I haven't seen.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I need to, let's see. I should probably go back at some point and rewatch those, but I don't know. Well, we both saw the movie Smile 2 that just came out.
Well, before we talk about Smile 2, we can talk about the first Smile
Yeah, that's fair.
and their marketing team.
Okay. Well, why don't you probably know more about that than I do.
It's awful. Has anybody seen the original Smile trailer? It looked like there was a movie that came out fairly recently before it, and it was like these CGI smiles. I think it was Truth or Dare.
Yep, true. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, Truth or Dare.
Okay.
So this trailer comes out relatively close to when Truth or Dare comes out, and I was like, oh, man, this looks so dumb.
Yeah.
This looks so bad. And the trailer was horrible. I had no interest in watching this movie. The movie comes out. The reviews are great. They're like, Smile is a great horror movie.
I need to rewatch that then, because I thought I liked the first trailer for Smile.
No, it's awful.
Okay, what happens in that one?
They
remember?
spoil every single jump scare in the entire movie, and in no way does it feel scary at all. Like, for some reason, the marketing team does not know, for Smile, the marketing team for Smile does not know how to make a trailer.
Yeah.
And it's so bad. I was like, oh, dude, this is going to be one of those funny bad movies. Movie comes out, it's great. But I never got any of that from the trailer. Trailer's horrible.
I would argue the Smile 2 trailer was bad for me. I was like, this movie's going to be bad.
Exactly. That's how I felt. Like, when I saw the Smile 2 trailer, I was like, wow, this looks awful. The Smile 1 was so good, but also Smile 1 trailer, horrible trailer.
Yeah.
Didn't look scary at all. Smile 2 trailer looks horrible. Doesn't look scary at all. Smile 2 is good. I really, really liked it.
Well, the marketing before the trailer came out, though, was interesting because that's when they were planting people to smile at the camera at, like, football games.
I did appreciate that. Right. Yeah, that marketing strategy was pretty good.
Now, I want to know what they did when they were done. Like the camera's on you and they're smiling, and then what? Did they run away?
I don't know. They might have traded out. They're like, all right, I need you to at least smile for 30 minutes, and then get up, keep smiling, leave, and then maybe somebody else replaces them and they're smiling for 30 minutes. Huh? Right. I don't know what they actually did there, but, good for them to do that.
Yeah.
They also, like, I saw it on YouTube Live, they had people live stream just them smiling at the camera with the camera, like, right next to their face. And I was like, it's so unsettling to just watch. And so I was like, I like that, you know. As far as that trailer goes, man, that trailer was bad.
Well, that is that the trailer that has the girl twisting her head down in the car?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Yep. So that was the best scare in the movie for me.
Best scare in the movie, and they ruined it in the trailer.
Yeah, and the trailer, when I saw it in theaters, I was like sitting here watching her walk up, and then and I was like, oh my god! And then, like you said, that was the best one. And it was I saw it before the movie came out.
I saw it before the movie came out.
Because if I saw that in theaters, my mind would have been blown. Like that fantastic, right? But yeah, the movie was like one of my favorite movies that were like scary films in the past like 10 years, with the exception of Terrifier franchise, which I thought was just phenomenal. So with the first one, what else did you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the plot? Or you want to talk about
we can talk about the plot. So we get to follow, at this point I forget her name, but Kevin Bacon's daughter. She's a psychiatrist, I believe, and essentially, as the movie progresses, you cannot tell what is real and what's not. And I think that's what makes the movie really, really good. It's because you can't really tell where the story is because, we'll follow this whole thread, we'll follow this whole plot line, only to find out that she's in the same spot that she was earlier.
Yeah.
Same thing, we get to, like, for example, the one scene where she thinks someone broke into her house, she gets on the phone, and she gives her little access code, and she asks, is anybody in the house with you? And she was like, no. And the girl on the phone, she's like, are you sure? And I was like, something's going on. Yeah. And then she like looks at her hand. She was never holding the phone, and then the phone rings. And I was like, that is so good.
Yeah.
You could never tell what on the screen is real and what's not.
You're jogging my memory because with the second movie, I was like, me and Maddie were finished with it, and we were like, what was real, what wasn't? Like
you truly could not tell in the second movie.
We could not. But in the first one, I thought it was more obvious. But now that you're jogging my memory, I was like, you're right. Like it was a lot more of fake outs, and not like cheesy fake outs where it's like it was. You think a jump scare's coming, the guy flushes the toilet very loudly. Oh, yeah. Sorry, man, I just got done with Taco Bell. That's what you're expecting. But
they do that in The Conjuring too.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're trying to film this ghost, and then they're like, the door just opened, dude flushes.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, come on.
So yeah, the first movie did have a lot of that. You're right.
I'm not sure if that's a criticism of the second movie though. You are right. I cannot tell what's real and what's not in the second movie. Because there's this huge plot line that goes on for like a good 30, 40 minutes. It takes up a good chunk of the movie.
And it wasn't real.
And I think the entire sequence was not real, but I can't tell,
right.
When it started.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want to go too far without giving a disclaimer that we will be talking about spoilers. So if you haven't watched Smile 2, go ahead and skip to whatever that timestamp is,
right.
And we will,
But I think you should absolutely go watch it. If you haven't seen any of them, I think Smile 1's on Paramount Plus. Go watch it or rent it, whatever you got to do, and then go see the second one. It is phenomenal. The trailers do not do it any justice. I was with you guys when I saw the dancing people going down the hallway like this in the trailer. It looks stupid.
It looks so dumb.
I was like, I can't believe.
In the actual movie, my sister and I were like, sitting back in our seats, we're like, and then she turns around, there's like 5 more of them, and they're in a different pose, and then she turns out and they're getting closer, and I was like, oh, no,
yeah, right.
None of that.
Yeah, well, it was reminiscent of Resident Evil 8 when the mannequins are coming at you when you turn around.
Oh, dude, okay, so that was the DLC, Shadows of Rose.
Right.
Oof, I hated that. I really did. So, yeah, they call that a weeping angel. I believe that's the term for it. It's basically one of those look and they don't move.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that.
So the
game mechanic is called a weeping angel. Okay. I'm not sure where it stems from.
So the boo from Mario is a weeping angel.
Yes.
I see that trope, boo.
But like, no matter how many times it's done, it may be a trope, but I still find it horrifying.
Yeah. Definitely.
Even if I was playing Mario.
Well, it keeps making you want to run backwards so you can progress the game, but
everybody does that. Like,
right. But then of course there's a doorway.
Back.
You gotta like walk backwards and you're like, dang it.
And then like you're like looking down the door.
Yep.
And then you hear it creaking again.
Yeah.
I'm like go as fast as you can.
Yeah. Okay, so spoilers for Smile.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get into spoilers.
Yeah.
What I was most worried about.
Are we on 2 or 1 now?
Okay. Do you want to go over 1 first?
I mean, kinda. Like, I don't think I have any criticisms of 1.
I do have one criticism of 1.
I would say it's a perfect movie. Not the perfect movie, but a perfect movie. But go ahead.
This doesn't really have anything to do with the story, and I'm pretty sure you might notice it in the second one. But they have this obsession with upside down shots.
Okay, yeah.
And it bothered me in the first one, mainly because I saw it so many times. And then that returns in the second one.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more aggressive, too. It's just like, okay.
Well, you'd swear he heard the criticism and said, well, you don't like that. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Smile 2 means double the upside down shots.
Yeah, I don't know what their obsession is with those upside down shots. I'm guessing... If there was a purpose, it's like turn your frown upside down type thing.
Maybe.
But nothing in the movie explains that.
It's not the only franchise that's been doing it now, though.
It's not, but it feels aggressive in those movies.
Well, what I think is somebody did it in a movie recently and everyone else ripped it off, including the Smile guy. Now, you're probably giving him if he heard this interview, he'd probably go like, "Oh, you're right. That is why I do it.
Oh, yeah.
That's smart. Of course, that's why I did it." But he probably just really likes it, and he just, I don't know. Maybe
Possibly.
It's easy. Maybe it's just easy for him to like pay somebody to fly a drone upside down and go across town. Maybe that's easy. Maybe that kills time. But I don't know.
Do you know what else is easy?
Doing
flying a drone straight. You know what I mean?
It would be easier. Yeah. I don't know. I can't fly a drone. I have my license and I can't. I'm bad at it. But
that's just my one qualm with it. As far as the story goes, love the story.
you know
First
what?
movie. Oh,
You know what I don't like? Not everyone's smile is creepy.
yeah.
So, case in point would be the therapist from the first movie. And, she comes over and it turns out, oh, she was never there. She never talked to her. Her whole day was a lie. And then the therapist starts smiling at her. Yeah.
She's got this weird smile.
And I was like, and I had the same problem with the second movie when her best friend showed up, And she was like,
Gemma?
Yeah, Gemma with
Okay.
with a G, for all the kids out there. And then she calls her and she's like, yeah, it turns out the whole movie I wasn't really there. And then she hangs up and she looks over her
We're
friend
getting
Gemma.
too far into spoilers, but
I'm
yes,
just
you're
saying,
right. That smile was
that
not
smile was
creepy.
weak.
Yeah, it was super weak.
It's always during the breakthrough. Holy cow! This whole sequence was a lie, and it's like it was perfect. It's always perfectly set up. It feels like the carpet's ripped out from under me. But then we look over at the person in question, and they got the worst smile in the whole film.
Yeah.
Every time. And it's like, do they not audition these people? Because one thing I love about this franchise is it doesn't cast any A-list actors. It doesn't there's no
Love that.
there's no cameos. It's like it's an everyday looking person. And the hottest person,
With the exception of one person, but we'll get into that.
well, the hottest person in the franchise was the main girl in the second one. Everyone else looks pretty average, and they made her look really good because she's supposed to be like Taylor Swift or somebody super famous that like everybody loves and adores and has all these fans. But everyone else looks very average, which is a really I think positive. Like it looks like an everyday person is going through something crazy. But with that comes some not the best acting, and by the acting I'm going to say their smile. And that's the important part of these movies. You know what I mean? Is like you got to get the smile right on some of these.
Like for example, what's the man who plays Pennywise? Bill Skarsgård. Yeah,
Yep.
Bill Skarsgård. Man, he's got a creepy smile.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He was practicing that just for Pennywise, and I wouldn't even be able to recreate that smile.
Right.
But man, get somebody who's got that talent to make the creepiest looking smile.
Yeah,
Because he's got a good one,
Well, everyone else's smile is terrifying, except for the people that is like, okay, this is the big moment, right? And he's like, okay, y'all ready? The script is gonna pay off right here, and then the person they cast for that scene just has the worst smile. And doesn't
I feel
look
like
good.
we need to do this in order because there are some really good smiles that I do want to get into.
Yeah.
But I feel like we should progress the plot first.
Okay.
I'll just give cliff notes on the first one,
Sure.
mainly because we already know how that happens. That's old news.
Yeah.
Got a psychiatrist. She gets this new girl in, and she's freaking out. She thinks she's seeing this creepy figure that's smiling at her, and it's not a friendly smile. And essentially, what's wrong with her is that she's a PhD student, and she was completely normal last week. And out of nowhere, she's having all these visions. She says, I swear I'm not crazy. I'm a PhD student. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. And like in the middle of her little speech of her explaining what's happening to her, this is essentially her end of her movie. And so she looks at our main character. What was her name?
In the first one?
Yeah.
I don't remember her name, but anybody look it up.
Yeah, you can look it up. But she looks at the character and she gives this beautiful scream, freaks out, jumps backwards, flips backwards over her chair, and does this like
Sosie Bacon. Oh, her name in the Rose.
Rose.
Yeah.
There it is. Oh, how did I forget about that? Rose.
Yeah.
But does this great acting of her like convulsing on the floor and like being unable to breathe.
Yeah.
And we later on figure out we know exactly what she's experiencing.
Yep.
But we get like one of the best introductions to a movie I think I've seen in a long time. Granted, one problem that I did have is when she's on the phone calling for backup is that she just needs to stare at the wall when she's got this homegirl like dying behind her.
Yeah.
And refuses to call for help while she's looking at the person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know why she chose to do that, staring at the wall just so she can get this very creepy shot of her turning around. She's not on the floor anymore.
Yeah.
Turns around again, and there she is, and she's got a great smile.
Yep.
This one was actually freaky.
Yep.
And I won't spoil what she does, but, That's the intro to the movie. You know, I'm not really sure how far you want to go into
I would
what's
say
going on here.
we could
'Cause
just-
I
we don't have
don't
to-
want to say it explicitly, mainly for your viewers.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the other thing is we're almost halfway through the episode and we need to get going. So I will say what I love about the Smile franchise, and it's especially apparent in the first one, is you really care about the main characters. Like you think
Yep.
like the movie does really good at thinking, okay, here's the way to beat it. You know, I got to deal with my past. This monster that's chasing me is actually torturing me with my past. The first movie, my mom died. She killed herself in front of me when I was a kid, and I had to witness it. So in this one, she goes back to her house that she grew up in, and she confronts her mom. You know, the Smile monster is taking the form of her mom, and she goes, "I'm not scared of you, Mom. I'm tired of running away from my past. I'm gonna deal with it."
Yeah.
And the monster tricks him, be like, "Oh no, like
Well,
Freddy
oh, it's
Krueger.
working. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
working." Just kidding, you know. And that's what I love about these two movies so far is that they have they both trick you into thinking there's a chance we can beat it.
Right.
know?
I think I like the chances of beating it in the second movie,
Right.
Because they're starting to be a little creative.
Yes.
And also at the very beginning of the movie, we see protagonist of what we believe will be in this movie. You
Yeah.
know, give his try
Yep.
on what he believes is the best action.
Yep.
So if you know, you don't want to get too far into the weeds of Smile 1, but we get Rose's ex-boyfriend, who is a cop, I
Yep,
believe.
yep.
And essentially, he was the one who last saw Rose during her ending sequence in the first movie.
Yeah.
So we start off our second movie. It's already been a week. Our main man right here, his clock is ticking, and I
Yep.
thought the opening shot was so cool. Is that he's sweating? He's
He hasn't slept in like 4 days.
Hasn't slept in 4 days.
Yeah.
And he is going to exercise this plot of I need to kill somebody because we know in the first movie he interviewed somebody, and that's the way to stop the monster
Yeah.
is to
Pass
get
it
it off
on.
your back, pass it on to somebody else by killing someone so you don't have to die.
Yeah.
And so we get this shot. He's looking at these Russian gang members, Russian drug dealers,
Right.
I believe, and that's his target. So I really like that part about him is that, man, he's got a clean heart, I
Yeah.
would say. He was just
Right.
like, all right, I don't want to die, but I also know that if I kill somebody that this will go away. So maybe if I kill somebody that deserves to die,
Yeah.
then I won't feel so bad about it.
Or at worst, he'll pass it on to other Russian gang members.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, and it'll start taking out
Yeah, no,
some powerful people.
Mhm.
You know?
And I mean, that was honestly a good thought. It was a
Yeah.
good idea. And we get him following this guy to his house. And what's really cool in the opening scene, like we're only 2 minutes into the movie and he's running to, go kill this guy. And you see Rose like burning
Yep.
on the side. And I was
So-
like, dude, that is so
Yeah.
cool.
So we're establishing, okay, it is him in case you were confused.
Yeah.
You know? and
like-
yes, he knows what he's doing. He knows he's seeing the monster.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
everything that she said was true. He's living through it.
Mhm.
And that's got to be one of the coolest opening shots
Yeah.
I've seen. Is that we pick up directly after the events of the first movie.
Yeah.
He's going through. We're seeing the evidence or the results of the first movie.
Yeah.
And
Well, I didn't think we'd see him again. I was thinking like this movie is
Mhm.
going to be 10 people later.
yeah.
But no, it was like right after, I just see where it goes right next. So,
So he wants to essentially bring this on to the Russian mafia, pass it on to them, and he kind of succeeds. Only the problem is that they shoot back.
Yeah.
His plot was to shoot one of his buddies in front of the gang leader, and unfortunately, he's got a gun too. He shoots back, and so it doesn't really work. So they're shooting at each other, and he ends up killing the one dude he wanted to see, and he actually passes it on to some random bystander who's in the background.
Yeah.
I guess he was coming to get his fix. He wasn't supposed to be there.
yeah.
And I'm not really sure what that means for the story, but I guess that's how it continues. Is that was the guy who saw the crime. And
the guy did pass it on. Because the kids saw him kill.
oh, right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
So he did successfully
Yeah.
pass it on.
So if he would have gotten away, so spoilers, he runs into the street and he gets hit by a truck immediately, and
Yeah.
it draws a big 2 in the ground to let you know this is Smile 2.
Right? Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it does draw a smile, but I
yeah.
also really didn't like that because it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
As far as the blood trail goes.
It looks like a Nike.
Right. It looks like a Nike check mark, but I was like, a truck like that would not swerve that cleanly, that sharply, with no skid marks on the ground. You know what I mean? So like I thought it looked odd.
I was thinking when it was zooming out, I knew it was gonna be a smile, but I was like, I whispered to Maddie, and I was like, it drew a 2, you know. But it made me picture Scary Movie 4 when Dr. Phil's legs are all it makes a 4. That'd been hilarious. So but yeah. Anyway, so
what if it zooms into his hand, like decapitated hand, he's holding up a 2?
He's like,
that would have been so funny.
Yeah, that'd been great.
But unfortunately, good guys finished last, and apparently he's got like a history of dying in all of his movies.
Really?
With the exception of Smile 1.
Yeah, that's fair. But
you know he dies.
He's going to. He's going to die because he's screwed. Because as far as we know, there's no way to beat it. And I, honestly, before the second one came out, I wouldn't have thought he would have resorted to trying to pass it on. You know, so. I'm proud
of the way he attempted to. You know what I mean? I guess that's what he thought the only option was. But in the second movie, we do get another option.
Yes. Which
I can't even tell if that was real.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? Maybe the monster was like just faking the whole thing. Like
man, it fakes out. The movie fakes out twice.
Yeah.
Which means that I truly can't tell what part of the movie was real. I really can't. In the first movie, you could tell what's real and what's not.
That's what I was going to say. Part. Yeah.
In the second movie, I think the whole movie was fake.
Yeah.
I can't tell.
For real. The only thing I know happened was when she went to get drugs and her buddy killed himself. That's the only thing I know happened. Everything after that, I don't know. Like the text messages. Who is this? I know who you are. I know whose number this is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Because
when she gets that text, we also see the drug dealer in the background in the mirror. You know what I mean? So we already know she's tripping balls.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. So with the second movie, the main protagonist isn't somebody who had a troubled growing up. This is a person who's an adult, but her life decisions has made her an issue. She's self-destructive. She hurts people around her.
Well, she does have a traumatic experience, and that was the car wreck.
But she's not a kid. It wasn't a childhood thing. She's a bad adult. She's like Jake Paul's wife. I don't know, like somebody crazy. You know, a girl who is famous and she killed her boyfriend in an accident because she was on drugs and she was acting crazy. So she's dealing with her self-destructive behavior. She blames herself. There's all this guilt. When she's stressed, she pulls her hair out. There's all this stuff, right?
Which was an amazing shot. I think the second movie does a great job showing us what happened, but in these like split-second cuts, like where she's explaining, like in the first interview where we get to meet our main protagonist, whose name I've already forgotten, but that's okay. They explain, "Oh, you changed your hair." Sky. Yeah, it was Sky.
I just watched it yesterday.
I just watched it like 3 days ago. I'll be honest, I forgot the name.
Yeah.
But they're like, "Oh, you changed your hair. You look great. This is coming after your, recovery, stuff like that." And then she's smiling for the camera, and it cuts to her like tearing out her hair and screaming for like a half a second. You know what I mean? And I was like, "Dude, like that's." And it's so
heavy,
dark.
Man.
It's really heavy.
Yeah.
But the cut was so good, and it explained to us the trauma that she went through, and the problem that she has is that she truly was going crazy and ripping out her hair. But they only show it for a split second, and I was like, wow. I was like, well, now I feel for this character like, immediately.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like this character, I wanted to reach through the screen and give her a hug and be, not that she would take it from me, but it'd be like, like you just want this person to be better, to be like, it makes you care about these characters, like both movies. I like this character better than the first one, I will say.
Yeah.
Not that the first one's not great at all. But the second one, just like, I don't know, like, just, I won't say relatable because I'm not a pop star or anything, but I don't know. I just saw a person struggling with a real issue, with fame, with the self-destructive behavior,
substance abuse,
hurting people around you. Like, that's a real thing. And, like, I don't know. It was just there was so much empathy from me going to this person. And it sucks kind of knowing that, like,
she's a normal person, and she's held to this crazy high standard. You know what I
Right.
mean? And she just has to look good for the cameras.
And what sucks is knowing that, like, no matter how hard this person tries to grow, based on the history of this monster, we kind of know how it's going to end no matter what. You know, unless
But we're still rooting for her.
Yeah,
You know, the first
you know.
girl had a chance. Maybe she'll
she'll think of something. Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe she'll find a way out. And the movie teases you with this, like, okay, we can beat this thing. I know how to do it. I'm a doctor. you know? So she meets up with this dude, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a brother of somebody unnamed from from Smile 1.5.
Yeah.
You know, my brother was attacked by the monster and it killed
Who
him.
got it? Who got it from a cop? Who got it from the psychiatrist? Who got
Yeah.
it from a teacher? Or who
Yeah.
got it from a student? Who got it from her teacher?
Yeah.
And I was just all like, they're explaining the plot of the first movie.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so
So
now that actor, I recognize him from a Lifetime original film. I just can't remember what it's called.
Lifetime. Who's
Yeah.
watching Lifetime?
When we were kids, there were times when you and I were young, and mom would hog the TV, and it would be stuck on Lifetime. And I remember in this commercial for a Lifetime original film, there was a cheating husband and this woman who was trying to take her life back after her husband, cheated and kicked her out of the will and all this other stuff. Well, the guy that cheated, that's the same guy from Smile 2, who's like, "Oh, I'm an ER nurse. I know what to do. I can do this." That's him. And it took me back 20 years ago because he's aged poorly. You know,
Yeah.
like he looks worse than he did in the Lifetime film, obviously. But I was like, "Oh, it's that guy. It's good to see you again, man. You were a small, minute part of my childhood. I appreciate that." So
I want to get into why I can't understand anything that happens in this movie.
yeah, let's do it.
Because
Well, it's not that you don't understand it, right? It's more so that you don't.
I can't tell what's reality.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
So we do know for sure that the beginning of this movie is very real. She hasn't seen the Smile monster at all. But she apparently, because of this car wreck that she got in, that killed her boyfriend in the past and everything, she's apparently using a certain drug that helps the pain in her back. So she goes to her drug dealer. And apparently, the drug dealer is the one
From the
who's
beginning.
who's got the little virus, and he's gonna pass it. He's gonna pass it on. So I thought that was an interesting take. Is that he thinks that he's just tripping balls.
As
you know,
he's doing cocaine,
just
as
like-
he's taking Molly.
when did you get here? Like
Yeah.
he threatens her with the sword. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then he throws the sword away. He was like, "Oh, okay, I guess you're
was-
real."
Yeah. I was literally picturing a younger 2018 Jake Paul who has the Smile monster. Like, that's what he reminded me of. He's got the samurai sword. And he's like, oh, it's just you. And he just runs to the bathroom, you know?
Well, no, he goes to his seat and he asks. He was like, "Oh, I got Molly, got
Yeah,
ecstasy,
yeah.
I got anything that you need, man."
Right. I'm like, oh no.
Man,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. And he's like, man,
Yeah.
this is really good Molly. You know? So, yeah. I don't know. I loved it. It was so different from the first movie because, you know, it was interesting seeing the dynamic where the first one, it was like such smaller scale. It was going from a woman to, you know, all like just normal people. And then this one, it affects essentially Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
you know, and so you're seeing like someone who's famous trying to process seeing the monster and seeing everyone smile at her. And it blends in with toxic fans because, you know,
I think she carries this movie. Now that I think about it, that
Yeah.
you're talking about this Taylor Swift-ish
Yeah.
character, I think she carries this movie. Her acting is so good.
Yeah.
The terror in her eyes, or how she's
the
not
eyes
sure.
widening.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
freaking out like,
Yeah.
what am I seeing right here? When she sees the Smile monster do its thing to the drug
Yeah.
dealer, you know, she backs up into the wall you know, at first, like, he sees the Smile monster and he's like looking up
Yep.
and she turns around. What are you
Right.
looking at?
Yeah.
You know,
We know as an audience, what I love is how when somebody's going through something, the characters don't know what they're seeing. We know what they're seeing. So whenever he's looking up and she's like, "What's going on?" You know, we know as the audience, like, "Oh, we saw the first movie. We know exactly what's happening."
we're seeing the giant fetus,
Yep.
you know.
We're seeing the face ripping, and then he starts, you know, and he to her, he looks stupid. It looks like he's ODing.
Yeah.
But we know she's doing the finger thing and sticking her head in him.
Yep.
You know, we know what's going on. I love that about this one.
Yeah,
It's
and
like-
to be honest, like, since we do know that he's on drugs, if I saw that and I didn't know what was going on, I'd be like, man, he's ODing.
Right.
You know, I don't know what to do
Exactly.
here.
So yeah.
She starts to get her visions. We get the exact same shot, one for one, from Smile 1, where she goes and gets a bottle of Voss, because the product placement for Voss is all over this movie.
My wife reached over and she's like, why does she keep drinking Voss? I was like, babe, come on. Sponsored by Voss. You know, because like conveniently, just like you taking a sip of water, every time she'd take a drink, she'd turn the logo toward the camera. You know,
smile for the camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and she did it like 80 times. And they wrote it off pretty good. Like, you know, the doctor said stay hydrated, you know. And then when she wakes up in the hospital later and they said the doctor said you didn't drink enough water, you know. So like
you're right.
Yeah, it fit in pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
Except for when the assistant brought LaCroix at the end, I was like, oh come on, finish the product here.
They didn't pay us enough.
Yeah,
so
they ran out of money at
to the end of the movie.
hour and 40-minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so but like I was saying, the one for one shot of her like drinking at an island in her kitchen, looks over to the dark corner, and sure enough, there's the guy there with his face smashed in from the. What was it? A weight.
Yeah.
Which I thought in the trailer that looked so dumb, but watching him do it like repeatedly in the movie, I was like, "Ooh," you know what I mean? Like,
right. There's a lot of off-screen mutilations this time.
Yeah, I thought that was odd, and we'll get into the worst one, you know, at the end.
Yeah.
But I can definitely tell that was one of her visions, and that she's not used to seeing these smiling creatures yet.
Yeah.
But from that moment, no. We get into the next day where she's signing. Oh, she's signing stuff.
Better catch that, Shaps. 42-minute, 30-second mark.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, she's signing shirts and, you know, talking to her fans. She's doing her VIP time after one of her concerts.
Well,
and we get the first creepy fan.
Yeah.
And this was real. I'm pretty sure this was real, at least, is we have this creepy fan, mega fan, who is delusional and thinks that Sky is the one for him and that they need to be together.
Yeah.
And this is a real problem that we see in the real world.
Absolutely.
We see it fairly often of Twitch donators who donate thousands and thousands of dollars and create this illusion in their own minds, and they believe that this woman who I've been donating like $40,000 to is now obligated to be with me.
Yeah.
So he asked Sky to sign his shirt, and he said, "Can you write love Sky?"
Yeah.
You know,
and like
so,
the shirt looks conveniently like a marriage certificate. You know,
right,
can you sign here, please? You know,
rips the second page off, and he's like, ah.
So,
So,
well, we're running out of time because I wanted to talk about the discussion I had for the movie once we got through it.
Sure.
So,
I just want to get into the creepy smiles.
Sure.
The creepy guy who's like following her.
Yeah.
Or is trying to be in love with her.
Yeah.
He's got a good smile.
Yeah.
The little girl that comes in afterwards.
Great smile.
Freaky.
Yep.
Really freaky. Loved it. But that night she thinks that she sees this guy break in, and he took off all of his clothes, got dirty underwear,
skid mark, tidy whities,
and he runs after her.
Yeah.
I would be so afraid.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this would be a cool part in the movie where you think it's fake and it was actually real.
Yeah.
That guy was there. That's where I thought the movie was going.
Right.
But no, he was an illusion.
Yep.
And she texts Gemma at the beginning of the movie.
Her ex-best friend.
And if I'm not mistaken, based on the movie, everything after that point is a lie.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Because she kills her mom. She's dating Gemma this whole time.
Yeah.
She goes to see this guy who's randomly texting her. And then at the very end of the movie, Gemma never responded, which means that from that moment on, from the time that she saw that man break into her house till that moment, no, actually until the very last 2 minutes of the movie,
Right.
all of that was fake, I
Right.
believe.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's why I can't.
There's no way to know.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on.
Because we're basically saying 28 minutes into the film, the rest didn't happen.
Because his mom comes in and she was like, "Oh, hi, Gemma. but that couldn't have happened because she wasn't there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So yeah, it's insane. And then we finally kind of caught up. So we find out that Gemma never responded. The whole movie was kind of fake. And we cut over to Gemma, who's smiling, and it's the worst smile in the whole film.
And I wonder if this is because the monster is getting stronger, is that he's able to make you trip absolute balls from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She wasn't even that deep into her psychosis, I guess.
Right.
And he's already doing these heavy, heavy hallucinations.
Well, she was already tripping balls on her past, so maybe that also made it
probably
where the monster was easier to infiltrate. She
you
had
know-
so much going on.
Did you know that her boyfriend was Jack Nicholson's son?
Didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you look
That's
at
why
it
he
again,
looked demented.
yeah,
He looked
So
like he played
his
Joker in
smile looks
Batman
really
1980.
good. And Lydia, she was looking at me. She was like, "Oh, do you know who that is?" And I was looking at him, and I was like, "I really can't tell."
Yeah.
And when she said it was Jack Nicholson's son, I was just like, "Oh, that looks just like him."
Right.
You know, so his smile looks
Yeah.
very reminiscent of what we saw in The Shining.
Well,
So
he needs to go find his grandpa because his grandpa has dementia, right? And I guess his not grandpa, he's Jack Nicholson's son.
Mhm.
Jack Nicholson has dementia, right? And he's like the paparazzi keeps catching him in the bushes, and he's like, running around. So I was like,
I did not know that.
will somebody help him instead of taking pictures of him? So this guy's in Smile 2, and his grandpa's off running somewhere naked. So anyway, you
I
should
wouldn't know anything about that.
you should look him up. The Fox News was like, he is unrecognizable because he looks like he doesn't know where he looks like Joe Biden, in somebody's yard. So anyway, side note. Okay, the movie teases you with I know a way out of this. Okay, so we know in the first movie,
Right.
in the first 1 week, I confront my fears. I beat the monster. Wrong. So this one, it's like, okay, the monster can't spread if you die before it passes on.
which is
So-
a good idea.
Yeah,
You
I was
know.
like, and honestly, like,
But I couldn't tell if that was real. So
Right.
what if the monster
was
is
just
making
mess
you
with them.
think
Yep,
that you know how to beat it?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
exactly.
But that if I look at it like that,
Yeah,
there's a possibility.
sure.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We said there's two options. You can either off yourself alone, which I'm
Yep.
pretty sure that's not what you want to do,
Right.
or you could do it controlled. Stop your heart, wait until you're clinically dead,
Mhm.
and then I'll bring you back, and that should solve it. Or
Yeah,
at least I'm theorizing that
Right.
could solve it.
you have to be dead for 60 seconds,
Right.
something like that, like a long time.
Well, we finally get to the plot where she's absolutely crazy. She doesn't know what's going on. Gemma and her whole life has been a lie for like the
Yep.
last week. And she finally decides to go through with the procedure because initially she didn't want to do it. And we get, I would say, the coolest version of this monster so far. He was just like, 1 second before we do this procedure, I need to grab something. And by the way, if I close this door to the fridge, it's not opening back up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so she she was like, "Sir,
Yeah.
where'd you go?" I was like, "Don't leave me alone."
Yeah.
And then she like looks up, and her past version of herself is like crying on the ceiling, like stuck inside of the car wreck from her traumatic past.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so creepy is that she's reaching over to like click her seatbelt, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was completely surprised with the jump scare that they did here because initially all the jump scares are just this creature smiling at you
Yeah.
with like a bloody face or something. But this time it's got the freakiest eyes I've seen.
Yeah,
And I was
they
like,
were like-
that is so cool.
They were glass cat eyes.
Yeah, glass cat eyes.
Yeah. Like imagine the
Yeah.
giant cat eyes looking at you, but then they were like a
Silver.
glassy, glossy. It was terrifying.
Yeah, no eyelids, just
Yeah.
perfect circles like staring at
I
you.
was, oh my god.
Yeah.
I-
When I saw it, I was just expecting like a loud noise and just her smiling up close. But no, this thing's freaky
Yeah.
now, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
so cool." And basically, she thinks that maybe if I show that I have control over this mental trauma, that it won't affect me. Kind of like what Rose did in the first movie. If I just confront it, it's not going to affect me. And it pretends for like 1 second that it doesn't
Yeah.
that it doesn't, or that it is affecting it. And then essentially this character like closes the door on her, and I was like, what door is there?
Yeah.
And apparently that whole sequence was a lie again, and she's already on stage in front of her thousands of fans at her final concert, or what will be her final concert, and her face looks clean, which means that when she was banging her head on the table, that never happened.
Yep.
Her being in the hospital never happened.
Yep.
Her killing her mom never
Yeah,
happened.
because her mom's in the audience. Smile.
Yeah.
You know.
So
That was a nice touch, by the way.
yeah,
director.
I mean, it was a nice touch, but
Yeah, good job.
we finally get to see what the monster looks like in this movie, and I think it's a million times better than the first movie.
Mhm.
It is way creepier. It is bigger.
And you only see it for half a second.
You only see it for half a second, but
Yep.
it is way bigger.
Yeah.
And we get this really cool CGI shot of it opening her mouth from a POV view.
Mhm.
And I thought it was gnarly with like
Yep.
her jaw separating
Yep.
in several places,
Yep.
dislocating everything just so it can get in there. But man, I thought that was the highlight of this movie.
Mhm.
But to the point that I wanted to make earlier, we don't see enough classic or original looking horror movie villains. It is clear that this thing is evolving, right?
Yeah.
And if it is about to claim the tens of thousands of people that just witnessed this, I'm willing to bet that it started off as much of a fetus
Mhm.
and it's growing. And I'm wondering if they do a Smile 3, if we would see this character become intelligent. You know what I mean?
There's no if.
That would be.
They
That
made
would
a
be
lot
so
of money.
Cool.
There's no
yeah.
way. Now, I would argue the way they ended this one would be a good ending to the trilogy. You know, I was like, oh, that seems like a Smile 3 ending, not a Smile 2 ending, where
Mhm.
it's infected the whole Taylor Swift concert.
I mean,
You know,
I called that like in the middle of the movie.
Sure.
You know, I talked to Lydia. I was like, I'm pretty sure she's gonna do it in front of her audience.
yeah.
But if Smile 3 were to continue, like if there was a Smile 3, again, I'm pretty sure there will be
Right.
because these movies are doing great.
Oh, yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see a completely original character of this thing evolving into a more intelligent being.
Mhm.
I think because we can see that it's able to do more with hallucinations. We can see physically it's gotten significantly bigger, like a lot bigger from the first movie. So if it's about to claim 1,000, tens of thousands of people at once, I think it would be rapidly evolved at that point. You
Yeah.
know, and that would be a cool concept for me at least.
Yeah.
If there were a third movie.
Right. I imagine. Yeah. So the third one, either it's going to evolve. I just don't know how they're going to top it. How are they going to top it taking out a Taylor Swift concert? You know, how do you go up from there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
However, I said the same thing about this movie. I don't know how they could do the last one.
Are you
the
serious?
trailer was awful. You know what I mean?
Dude, well, Smile 1 was such a small scale. They had plenty of ways to go. Sideways,
Mhm.
upside down. You know, your favorite shot.
Oh, what if it was like an anthology? What if
Right.
it's all over the news? Everyone is offing themselves.
Okay, that's not a bad idea.
Nobody can tell what's real, and we get like 5 main characters,
That'd be
and
kinda
they're
cool.
all doing their own thing.
Yeah, I was thinking they
that
were
would
gonna.
be cool.
I was thinking they're gonna go backwards and just do Smile Origins. You know,
Mhm.
You know, something stupid.
Yeah,
Smile. Yeah.
Judging
Smile
the
Last
way-
Dance.
the way that these funders want these movies to go, I'd say it's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Maybe follow
yeah.
that one guy who was like, "Get away from me!"
Yeah.
Like in the first movie.
Right.
Maybe we get to see his story.
Mhm.
I think he was he was one of the officers in Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who's in jail in the first movie who got away from the monster.
Okay, I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have a big role, so I don't
He
remember.
didn't have a big role, but if there were anybody that was interested in seeing, maybe that. I was also going to say, I know I brought it up earlier, but we get these split-second clips of her going through traumatic experiences. We get to learn about how the doctor's brother died, and he says that his brother tore off his jaw with a crowbar, but we get a split-second
Yeah.
cut of him like tearing it off, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
this
See, at
looks
first
so
I was
good.
like, I don't know what he meant, and then they just show you.
yeah, they just show it of him just
'Cause,
tearing off.
like, the movie didn't give me time to process what he said. I was like, wait, how's that possible? And then it just cuts to it. I was like, oh, thanks, because I was confused.
Man, like it was. This
Yeah.
movie is significantly more brutal than
Yeah.
the first one,
And
and
in some ways, it isn't, because then we talked about the off-screen deaths.
the main character Sky gets an off-screen death,
Mhm.
and I don't even know how she does it. No clue.
Yeah,
She takes the microphone and she lodges it into her eye.
but not in one, not like you see in the hot dog eating contest where they whoop. It's like you hear it cuts to the audience reaction. So and you hear a loud thud, and then you see the audience go, oh, thud, oh my god, and then it cuts back to her, and the microphone's lodged in her eye, and she's doing the smile, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, but why was that off screen? And then same thing. Didn't it cut when the dealer at the beginning when he's smashing his face into every time he's about to hit it? Didn't it cut away?
A couple of times, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was interesting to me. There's a lot of off screen killings this time. That was weird. But I mean, did it hurt the movie overall for me? No. So which one did you like better?
I can't decide if it's
Right.
recency bias, but I think I like the second one better, mainly because the creature itself is better.
Yeah.
The scares I feel like are more well developed. I think they're better. Like when we get the guy who's breaking into her house and we see the trail of his clothes taken
Yeah.
off, and then you see there's a naked man smiling at you in
Yeah.
a dark corner, and the build up to that was freaky. The trailer does an awful job of making like the choir dancers like dancing towards you.
Yeah.
That looks so dumb in the
Yeah.
trailer. In the movie,
was
it
a lot
is
better.
so freaky.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate watching it. I'm like, she turns around and they're closer, turns
Yeah.
around and they're closer, and she starts running, and then they all run after her. I was like, that is freaky.
Yeah.
I love that. Like we said, the glass eyes,
Yeah.
that looked amazing.
Mhm.
The monster at the end looks amazing.
Yeah.
Way better than the first one.
Mhm.
And the opening sequence, man, the opening sequence was so breakneck, fast pace. I just loved everything about this movie. And I think I'm going to have to give my stars to the second one.
Yeah.
But there is
It's-
something very enjoyable about how simple the plot
Yeah.
was for the first one.
It's almost a tie, but I might have to agree with you. I think the second one's better, but it's so close.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ways this movie's better, but I think there's a couple ways where the first one's better, but only a couple. Like I said, the second one, the protagonist is just so much better.
Final verdict.
I'm torn though.
Yep.
I think the first one it has a lot of stuff I love and I can't forget, but I'm gonna have to hand it to the second one because of the main character, the fact at the end I realized I don't know what was real, what wasn't. It kept me guessing the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and it just ramped it up. They're so creative, and this is the weirdest thing I've ever said about a horror film. I think it's a comfort film for me, where if I just want to go to sleep to something, I turn it on, and I'm comfortable.
I'm not watching this movie while I sleep.
I feel better when I turn it on, and I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm all tucked in and I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's so weird. I could put it on to go to sleep too, but it is scary. I'm not saying it's not scary. It doesn't scare me. It does, but it's like I don't know. It's just like a good. I've never felt that way about a horror film, but here I am.
I want to see it again. It was really good.
I've watched the first one like 5 times.
Yeah.
And then there was one time I put it on. I was like,
Time to go
yeah,
that night.
yeah, and I felt great. So I
Man.
don't know. It's tough. It's tough to describe.
If I had to rate it 9 out of 10, I'm up there at 9.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what I would change about it, but I feel like it might need something. But
yeah, definitely.
it's definitely not like a masterpiece as far as writing goes. But 9 is up there. It's a very, very solid movie. I
Mhm.
think I like it better than the first one. First one's solid 8.5. to a 9. You know, the margin that the second movie is better than the first is very small.
Very small, but yeah.
But I still think I'd give it the edge.
Yeah, definitely. Even with all the upside down shots.
I think that's where the 9 is coming from.
yeah. Otherwise, it'd be a 10.
In this movie, they're just going crazy on these upside down shots, especially one where you're in downtown and the camera flips around really fast and then goes, you know.
And at one point, it even goes to her window.
Yeah, it goes through her window, and then like she opens the door. I was like, that was a cool shot.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
like, did the camera need to go upside down again?
Yeah,
you know.
So, all right, I think that's all we got time for today. Thank you for hopping on again. We'll see you on the next episode. We didn't get to the discussion this time, but we will on the next one because the movie was just really good. We had to talk about it. So
yeah, it was unfortunate, but thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
See ya.